Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
It's time once again to talk mental health. My name's Mick Coyle. Welcome to Mental Health Monday for another Monday. I was away last week, so hopefully you've been able to check out the special podcast we put out ahead of World Suicide Prevention Day as well. Thanks once again to James's Place, who was so welcoming and basically inviting us down, showing us around and telling us all about the great work that they're doing. You can check out all the previous editions of the show, don't forget, via our podcast feed. Today's guest has got a really interesting story and doing some wonderful work in the world of mental health. Danielle Kershaw joins us in the studio. Danielle, it's great to see you.
Hello.
Now, you have got a business now, which I'm going to pronounce probably incorrectly, but you can explain why it's got a slightly complex name, and it's Innsaei Insights.
That's right. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Tell the word Innsaei, what does it mean?
Yeah, so it's an ancient Icelandic word. It's got three meanings, actually. The first meaning is the sea within, so it kind of means about the borderless inner nature that you've got within yourself. Second meaning is to see from within, so almost like kind of giving or putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and seeing their perspective. And the third meaning is to see from the inside out, so really being in tune with yourself on the inside and seeing the world from that perspective. So it was a documentary actually that I watched by the same name, and it was talking a lot about supporting young people actually in Iceland and Finland, and they've really got a bit of a handle on supporting people to understand their mindset and things like that. So it was a name that just stuck with me, even though it is a little bit of a tongue tangler. I think it's a starting point for a conversation, so I went with it.
Does it help that other sort of cultures or languages have a word for something like this? Because sometimes now, when we're talking about mental health, we're almost doing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. We're scratching around, and I've done it on this programme, scratching around for saying the right thing, not saying the wrong thing, trying to find those right words, about feeling okay, feeling not okay, it's okay to not be okay, and so on and so forth. Sometimes you get a word like that, obviously stuck with you and thought, actually, that kind of sums up what we're talking about.
Absolutely. And the fact that it is ancient and, it's been around for a long time, and lots of other cultures, not necessarily Western cultures, but lots of other cultures do tend to have historical concepts and teachings and ways to kind of live your life. And it feels that the Western world is just trying to catch up a little bit. And as you say, just trying to work out how to put it across can be a little bit of a challenge. So, I found an ancient word with three meanings, to kind of sum it up. So I stole it.
Is it about sort of self-awareness, do you think? And about awareness of self-awareness? Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's... I've watched and listened to a couple of your guests, and there was a guest that you had on, the mental health warrior, and he spoke quite a bit about during his darkest times, he felt that there was a percentage within him that still wanted to fight, still wanted to get up, and I kind of resonated with that a little bit, because within my experience of my life, when I was going through tougher times and harder times when I was younger, there was always a part of me that knew it wasn't right. And it's something that I've reflected on quite a bit now that I've come through that journey and looked at my past with adult eyes, rather than, just experiencing it. If you're able to be still and listen to yourself, your own judgment tends to be quite right. So if you're not feeling good about something, then there's going to be a reason behind it, and you shouldn't really pack that feeling away. You should explore it a little bit, and then if you do that, you become much more free.
We'll talk about the work that you're doing now. You speak on different platforms as well, and we'll talk about some of the work you're doing online as well. There's also a website, which will hopefully send people in the direction of as well. In terms of your own story, Danielle, what issues have you found in your life?
So I had a childhood that was quite traumatic, really. I suffered a lot of abuse and trauma in my childhood. So, I've learned about the early years of my life. I actually started working at a medical centre, and I actually got view of my medical notes, which kind of filled in a gap from when my earliest memories began of, abuse and stuff. And so I suffered all forms of abuse pretty much on a daily basis. So if you can think about it, it kind of happened to me within my home setting. But also what I've realised, which is probably more or maybe just as damaging, was the mental abuse and the emotional abuse. So I was isolated from my family within the home setting and wasn't really kind of supported or motivated. I never had any self-worth because there was nobody around me to say, yeah, you're fantastic, you go and do what you want to do, kind of thing. And then I was also excluded from the outside world as well. So I wasn't allowed to go out and play with friends and things like that. And I remember, a lot of feeling quite lost, but very aware. Like people describe what it's like to have an old soul, and you can look at people and you can think they've been here before, or you can think that's a very brand new, a brand new soul. And I think I'm one of those people. I like to think that there was always some kind of knowing there. And of course, the power that comes from that is, there's a purpose to everything that's happened, which has kind of led me down the path of doing what I want to do. But in all honesty, it didn't. I left home when I was 17. I was unable to remain within that household setting. I was, old enough to be able to try and make my way in the world. And for 2 years, I kind of dipped in and out of poor mental health. I didn't have any family around me or anything like that. So, and obviously not living in the world, my judgment on people's characters wasn't great. So, I found myself in lots of vulnerable situations. And then I had my son when I was 19. And that was definitely a massive moment for me because other mums and parents and dads, will relate to the idea that when you look into this brand new baby's eyes, you just kind of are filled with this, not only a brand new love, but it's almost like it was like a power for me. I felt like in that moment I became really powerful because I just had this really strong desire to give this child everything and not to let any harm come their way. And what actually happened was I made a decision then to not look back towards my past, and I vowed that I would never ever be affected by anything that ever happened to me. I was this new warrior woman, didn't need to talk about it, and I just kind of thrust myself into motherhood. And if the trauma and the pain would kind of raise its ugly head, I would charge even further and faster into motherhood, and that's where my career was born. I was a single mum, so I'm gonna bring in 2 salaries. This child's not gonna have to suffer, and I was really successful. I kind of went up the career ladder, and there's many people who are still in my life now that still have no idea probably the extent of the experience that I had in my childhood. I just kind of kept on going up and up and up, and looking back now I can see where my health would deteriorate during stressful periods, but I almost kept it together until last year. It was a year ago in September last year, and I was in the workplace, and it was a day that I can never forget because my whole world imploded essentially. I wasn't able to string a sentence together. I'd never had a panic attack before, but I now know that I was having wave after wave of panic attack. I was sweating, and it's ironic because all of that pain that I'd been running away from, it was like as if it all hit me on that one day, and I felt like I just couldn't function anymore. And I felt it all at once, and it felt like as if it was too much and it was, endless, and that was going to be my world forever. But on that night, I actually engaged in counselling for the first time. Now, I'd tried, or people had suggested, people who love me, good friends, you should try a little bit of counselling, but I was still in that run mode. Don't want to open that box. You don't know what's in there, and I've got a career and a time to be a mum and stuff. But I can honestly say it was the best thing that ever happened, because my counsellor said to me, you will get through this, but you've got to do the work. And it was a very conscious decision to turn around and face the pain and kind of head into it rather than back off and run away.
That's quite a story. Thank you for being so honest with that, Danielle. I guess, if this was a Hollywood film, there'd been the opening scenes where you'd have, the difficult and the difficulties that came with childhood, and then the adulthood, and then the child, and then you would run off into the sunset because you were going headlong into it. And actually, that's quite a comfortable little thing for people to deal with. Oh, do you hear about Danielle? Oh, she's had a baby now. Oh, but she's just cracking on. Oh, she's doing all right for herself now. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
She just cracked on and got on with it. And actually, even when you were telling that story, I was waiting for the moment where you'd go, but. And this idea that actually those things that happened early on, although you can put them to one side or focus on something else, those issues were always sitting with you underneath that came to the point. And I think maybe this is one of the things that we've not really dealt with as a society, that, just keep your head down and, and crack on, keep calm and carry on is the phrase that we use.
Yeah.
And actually, it's not really that helpful in that regard. And actually, your story is one of which whereby after a certain point, fine. But then beyond that, something needed to be done. There had to be some sort of intervention. But then the breakdown came before the intervention. Yeah,
and it kind of forced me into a corner. And I think, looking back, I don't know whether it is a coincidence that my son is 16 now and, doesn't need me so much, It may be that, I kind of reached my limit in terms of my resilience. But underlying all along there was, a sadness. You feel, if I look at the way I live my life now, and I have done in the 12 months since, I can see how much was lacking there for those, 35 years previously. Everybody needs to kind of own their experiences and love themselves, and that's been part of my journey, kind of understanding why I am the way I am, and understanding there's things that I will be able to fix moving forwards, but there's also things that I will never be able to change about myself. But if I'm aware of, triggers and scenarios that I might not deal so well with, I won't avoid them, but I'll prepare myself for them, and I kind of love myself to look after myself in the run up to it, during, and then afterwards as well. When I do my talks, I share a lot of personal stuff, which is still quite new to me. So it drains me,
When we were talking at the start about how you sort of, a sense of yourself within yourself, from what you were saying about your childhood, there was almost a sense from you that you had so little influence from isolation or, isolation within a family, outside from out the family, that you had to create yourself. And actually in doing so, you were able to do so with an element of self-awareness, but presumably due to the nature of your upbringing, that came with it some of the issues which you later found out about as you got into adult life. Came across people you'd never come across, trusted people in a way maybe you shouldn't have been trusting as well. But that's still you, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's still you.
Yeah. And I think you need to kind of, there's an element of me where I probably, always wanted to see the good. So I always had this thing in my head where I was like, don't judge a book by its cover. And so if people were around me that maybe didn't have great behaviours to other people around me, as long as they hadn't done anything to me, I just thought, this is a misunderstood person. I always wanted to know what was going on behind the scenes, because on the surface to me, people, within my childhood, old school friends, they might think, wow, would never have known that was happening, because I kind of went in, I was studious. I didn't kind of have any outward behaviours to say that, really awful things were happening when I went home. So, behind the scenes, there was always an awareness and there was always a dialogue with me. Although a lot of it was negative. So whenever I got excited about something or thought that I wanted to do something, I never had that belief. So I can really see how you are in control of a lot of the stuff that goes on internally, but externally there are lots of factors to support people with their growth, and I think it needs to be a healthy balance of the two. So maybe in the absence of some of the stuff, my awareness now can kind of appreciate the need for both levels and to promote both levels.
We've got Danielle Kershaw with us in the studio. Her organisation is called Innsaei Insights, and they've got a website as well. Now, in is I as in the pub, I-double-N, S-A-E-double-I. Hang on, let me get this right.
It's a test for you.
Innsaei. So basically, I-double-N, S-A-E-I, insights.co.uk.
Yes.
What we'll do, though, we'll put it up on our social media.
I think that's for the best.
People can find their information there. But there was a really important reason why the word Innsaei was used, as Danielle set out at the start of the conversation as well. She's been sharing her mental health journey on the website, Improving Mental Health Awareness in Liverpool. Although, Danielle, from what you're saying, that when you go out and you speak to people, you've done various events recently, that's actually for you as well as for those people that you're talking to. You're not saying, I'm done, I've sorted everything in my life, now hear my story. This is part of your process.
It is, yeah. I've gotten an awful lot from kind of sharing my experiences. It's, people tend to think that you're coming in to support, attendees and participants and to get the conversation out there. But for me, it's just as much for me to feel less alone. If I'm going out to groups and organisations where they've got people who are living experience in the same way that I am, it's often an exchange of tools. I've kind of adapted and some things have stuck with me that support me to keep a handle on my mental health. And I've been given lots and lots of information, books and podcasts and practices that I can kind of go home and use. So it's definitely a two-way street. And it's nice for me to know that I'm doing something and applying a purpose to my experiences, so from what could be, an awful scenario that could have actually taken my life, down a really negative path. Even though I am 36 years of age now, it feels like it's all happened at the right time for me to utilise that experience, to be brave enough to talk about it in the present moment, on a day-to-day basis. And I record videos at home. That's probably one of my best tools where I can kind of go back and reflect. And I record good days as well as bad days to remind myself about the contrast that is in my life, but the balance that is there in between, because people often aspire to recover from mental health. And I think what is important for everyone to know is, mental health is a state and there's a spectrum. And so ranges from amazing to poor. And we all have everything in between, and we all go into several states in just the one day. So it's not about... it's about getting through the day, isn't it? It's not about overcoming some of your challenges. It's about being equipped for them, from my perspective.
What's it like watching those videos back? I obviously have to listen to myself a lot doing this show. And sometimes I'll roll my eyes and think, why did I say that? Yeah. Why did I say it like that? Shouldn't I be a bit more clinical in the way that I asked a particular question? Why did the questions ramble on for so long? I'm doing it now. But then for yourself, do you think, is it about thinking, that's how I felt at that moment. Mm-hmm. Now I'm looking at myself. And this is all about the see within and the various versions of the word.
It's interesting when you watch yourself back, because you realise I can see where I'm holding back. So if I am having a conversation about something and I'll start to get a little bit emotional, it's interesting for me to see how quickly I can put those kinds of walls back up and gather me, get myself back in the zone. But it was something that I used within a course I was delivering, 5 Ways to Wellbeing, just recently, to a group of about 7 males who were living with mental health issues, everything from anxiety, social anxiety, PTSD, OCD. And we were talking about it being up and down and mental health being a journey. And I said, right, well, here's my laptop. I'll show you. This was me, 2 weeks ago, and I'm sat on the couch in my pyjamas and I had a scrap of makeup on, my hair thrown up. I wasn't exactly crying, but I was just having a down day, and I was like, you know what, I'm not feeling it today, so I've decided I'm not going to the gym and I'm not giving myself a hard time about it. My body's telling me that I need to just do some rest and look after me. And I used it as a tool to just kind of show that little bit of honesty that, you will have days like that, but if you can think about it as a day like that and start planning and nurturing. And on that day, I laid in bed and watched some empowering things on YouTube, and actually got loads of ideas for things that I could do in the future, so it's useful for me to reflect on myself, and it's useful actually, for me to share with other people where it's best appropriate.
For people who were sort of going through difficulties, from what you're saying, you talked about the counselling, which was the first step a year ago, but the work you're doing now and almost looking at yourself, so trying to find the power from within.
Yeah.
Have you kind of got for yourself personally, and I guess it'd be different for other people, like the percentage of the outside help that you need versus the inside help? It seems like now you got a big focus on what you can get from yourself, working on yourself from the inside as well. Is there always got to be a percentage from the outside, which is new ideas, which is different thing, which is the medical, the clinical side of things as well?
Absolutely, yeah. I think your surroundings, the people that you are associating yourself with, have a massive contribution to your mental health as well. So I find that now doing the right job as well. I couldn't imagine going and doing something where I didn't actually feel like, the values or the morals of the company didn't kind of sit with me. Things kind of flash up to me if they don't feel right, so doing the right type of work. And, I feel like I'm 50% there on the inside, and that's all that is required really for me to go and seek 50% worth of support externally. And how that's kind of manifesting itself at the moment is by me wanting to speak to the smaller employers, 250 employees or less. On Mind's website it says that 56% of employers would want to do more to support employees' well-being if they had the right guidance and training. And so I'm embarking on a research piece, and I've got lots of employers who are interested. I want to speak to employees as well, find out what their triggers are maybe, and then see if we can influence some change, because there's a need there. I think what happens is employers just get a little bit scared by doing it wrong, potentially. And obviously Mind encourages employers to work with people with lived experience, so lots and lots of help from the outside is required for me to live my 100% life, I suppose.
You talked about the situation you found yourself in a year ago, and maybe the reasons why you thought that it might have come about with your child turning 16. It seems like you're kind of going headlong into this kind of thing now. Are you making checks and balances on yourself along the way, that you're not just sort of creating a new diversion tactic? Is that something that you're getting your head around? I guess it's part of the process, that the story that you're telling, that you're tackling those issues. Yeah.
So it's interesting that you say that, because now upon reflection I can see how much I actually did that an awful lot, from the age of 17 leaving home to last year. And Christmas just gone, actually. It was the first Christmas. I left home when I was 17, but it was the first Christmas that I missed not having a family, because every single Christmas I would throw myself into my son and bought him everything that he ever wanted. And some might say that I went over the top. I probably did. And, I was the festive spirit personified. But unfortunately, that was me just throwing myself into it. So last year, it kind of took the wind out my sails a little bit, and I was like, wow, where's this feeling come from? But because I understood myself, I was able to just kind of sit in those feelings. And what I do now is allow myself those feelings. If I am feeling a little bit sad around birthdays, Mother's Days or whatever, I can plan for that a little bit more. So the avoidance techniques are minimised, if not consciously observed, when they do happen, because, we're only 12 months in. But a lot of the work that I'm doing now is for good, so it's not necessarily kind of holding me back in any way emotionally. In fact, it's helping me grow emotionally and spiritually, and, I feel much more fulfilled in doing that.
Do people ever look at you and go, wow, Danielle, you look like a completely different person?
Yeah, I got told by some really close friends that my aura had changed.
Aura? Right.
Yeah, my aura's changed, apparently. And, my best friend said to me just last week, I've known her since I was 17 when I left home. So she's been along for the ride, and she said, observing me for all those years, I was, a happy, kind, caring person. But she said, it always felt like as if I was looking for myself, wasn't completely comfortable in my own skin. And, she got a little bit emotional saying to me, she feels like as if I've become that whole person, and, she's proud of me. So that was lovely to hear.
Is the part of you that thinks, give me a couple more years, give me another 5 years, give me another 10 years, let's see where I am now? You're so, that you've been 1 year in this particular stage of your journey. You're achieving so much in the work that you're doing now. Do you have self goals where you think, this is hopefully where I'll be in 3 years.
So when I first started the business, I did have goals, because that's what you're supposed to do when you start a business, and you're trying to keep the money coming in, you've got the mortgage and everything. But honestly, the way that I'm living my life now is things are coming to me. I'm open to opportunities, and things are just starting to come to me. And all I need to do is to be confident and brave enough to say, yeah, like coming here today on the radio station. Yeah, come along and let's have the conversation. And the response that I'm getting by sharing my story has been overwhelming. So there are countless opportunities. So in terms of long-term goals, it's just about kind of scaling up. I'd like to go in and make a difference to organisations, and because I've worked in a professional environment, I'm not averse to pulling together a good old project plan and executing it. It's just very bizarre because I'm doing it for myself now, so it just feels a little bit different. But yeah, I think it's just about growth, getting the word out there, and helping as many people to not only help themselves, but go on to help other people as well.
Innsaei Insights, I'm going to try and spell it again, Innsaei Insights.co.uk. People go on the website, just tell people what they'll see when they get there.
Yeah, so it's just a little bit of an overview about my journey, some of the services that I offer. So, I do a little bit of guest speaking, motivational talking, but also I go into employers and support them to either in the training world that I come from to design curriculum so that people who are vulnerable are being equipped with these tools in the right kinds of way through lived experience. And then also to go into employers and help them with their wellbeing agenda. So whatever, we appreciate every workplace is different, and so stress factors are completely different, and it needs to have that kind of tailored approach, so I can support people to do that within their organisation. And there's a contact form on there, so anybody who wants to reach out and maybe be part of what I'm trying to explore, or even if they want to share a little bit about their experience. I've met some wonderful people who are doing similar things, and we're all working together in our specialisms. So if anybody wants to join my army and become an associate, then they can just drop me a line through the contact form on the website.
We'll get a link to the website up on our social media as well. Innsaei Insights, Danielle Kershaw sharing her story on Mental Health Monday. Danielle, it's been a pleasure to get you on the programme.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for saying yes to us.
It. Thank you.
And the video will be available. You can check that out via our YouTube channel. We'll put links up on Facebook and on Twitter as well, at Radio City Talk. And that website again, Innsaei Insights.co.uk. Brilliant to get you on the programme.
Thank you so much.
If you want to be part of the programme, you can drop me an email, mick@radiocity.co.uk. That's mick@radiocity.co.uk. If you'd like to offer your thoughts as well, don't forget Mental Health Extra follows Tuesdays. That's also available as a podcast. And if you want to check out the Mental Health Monday podcast, type it into any podcast provider, or in fact, just type it into any Google search and you'll get all the details and listen to all the previous editions for absolutely free. Mental Health Monday from Radio City Talk.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.